Okay, let's talk about the potential internet bomb that Patrick O'Sullivan and Blackmagic Design may have just dropped on our entire camera YouTube community. Up to this point, Blackmagic have not put out any footage previously captured on the new Blackmagic Pyxis camera, but now, within the past few days, Patrick O'Sullivan has put out not one but two breakdown videos on a commercial that he collaborated with Blackmagic Design. Now this is huge. First, I should preface with the fact that I used to be a proud Patreon supporter of Patrick's. I was on Patrick's Patreon and a member of his private Discord channel from 2017 all the way up until just last year. So low-key, he was like a shadow mentor for me, okay? So I'm a huge fan of O'Sullivan, first of all. And because I know him from the Patreon, being on it all these years, that's why I was so shocked when I first saw the first video and being like, whoa, wait, what? Is this real? And at first I thought, oh, he's just breaking down the latest footage that they put out. And then when you watch the video, then you realize like, oh, no, they brought him on. They had made him shoot it. He's the DP of this. I already knew prior to those videos that he was an airy guy. If you were ever on the fence about this Blackmagic Pyxis 6K camera before the O'Sullivan stuff came out, well, now you're gonna be leaping over the fence, knocking down Blackmagic's door. Check this out.
What am I gonna have to change in my setup in terms of lighting and using the camera itself and the team that we're gonna have to make this thing usable? Basically, I changed nothing. I didn't do anything different. I turned on the camera, I looked at the image, and I thought, I'm just gonna do everything how I normally do it. The mini LF system that I have, I don't know, that was probably 150 grand. And this thing's what, 4, 5 grand? I don't even know what the price is. It's definitely less expensive, and I didn't have to change anything.
I'm almost positive that before he had the Alexa Mini LF, prior to those 4 years, he shot on the Alexa Mini OG camera. I'm almost positive. So he's been an airy guy through and through for the longest time. So now to see him as like a low-key ambassador for Blackmagic Design, and not only that, but straight up validating this new camera, saying, look, man, I don't need that high-end, industry standard, very highly expensive, for some of us unattainable camera when I can just use this $3,000 Pyxis camera. He didn't have to change a thing, according to him, to get the same results that he's used to getting. That's a big deal to have that validation stamp from Patrick O'Sullivan. Now, I think this is a huge marketing move for Blackmagic Design, right? Because in the past, they've worked with guys like John Brawley. Now, John Brawley is a highly successful, high-level working cinematographer right here in Hollywood. He's the real deal. He has a nice IMDb. He does stuff for Netflix and streaming all the time, right? In some aspect, he's actually higher caliber than O'Sullivan. But the downside is John Brawley doesn't really have a social media presence, right? A lot of YouTubers and TikTokers don't even know who John Brawley is. On the flip side of that, you have someone like O'Sullivan. He has a very popular podcast that's been on for many, many years. He provides a lot to the professional cinematography community. To see Blackmagic identify that, and to see that he has been growing his YouTube channel, which honestly, for the longest time, Patrick didn't care about his YouTube, right? I watched his YouTube channel go from like 12,000 subs to what it is now within a matter of like a year, okay? So he's only recently started doing this YouTube thing. And that's kind of, it's his style. If you are a working class, blue collar videographer, cinematographer, photographer, like myself, you can identify guys like O'Sullivan. His realness is what we are attracted to. Blackmagic, to see that and identify that and say, look, he's got the work level, but he also has that presence. But not just any like Peter McKinnon, nothing crazy like that, because that's not the reality. That they know that would not be widely accepted in the professional cinematography world. Let's just be real, right? Guys with those kind of numbers would not impress anybody, right? But to see someone like O'Sullivan work with this camera and then put his own validation stamp on that camera for the professional cinematography community, that is a big fucking deal. It's just really surprising to see. Now, the downside of that, the flip side to this, is that if you're someone like me that didn't get those initial pre-orders in when the camera was first announced back at April NAB, I don't think we're going to be able to get our hands on this camera for a very, very long time now that he has brought this to light. Because up to this point, Blackmagic didn't have any footage from this Pyxis 6K camera. In fact, the footage that they were putting on their website, which I was just talking about in one of my own Patreon videos last week, was that up to this point, the only footage they had on their website was footage shot by John Brawley, but it was actually footage from the Blackmagic 6K full frame camera. right? So they were recycling that footage and they were getting away with it because they were saying, hey, this is the same sensor. But up to this point, we haven't seen any footage from this camera up until now. And to hit it with this high of a caliber, it's exciting, it's eye-opening, and it's like, okay, this is legit now. It's funny because that's what it took for me to kind of get back into the Blackmagic camp. I haven't messed around with Blackmagic since my Pocket 4K days, and that's been quite a while now. And honestly, I wasn't that excited about the Pyxis 6K. I kind of only recently started kind of looking at it again closely, just within the past couple weeks. As my Patreon all know, we've been talking about it over there. Lo and behold, it seems kind of serendipitous that now O'Sullivan drops these videos. You can actually download 3 of the clips that O'Sullivan captured with the camera over on the Blackmagic Design website. I do think it's a little disappointing that we weren't able to download any of the nighttime shots, right? So that's kind of a bummer. I mean, here's the thing. O'Sullivan is a very low-key shooter anyways, and what I mean by that is low-key lighting, right? If you guys follow him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, you know, even the interior day shots are pretty dimly lit, but still, those nighttime shots, Blackmagic, please put those on your website, right? We want to see how this camera is handling the noise levels. That would be nice to see. But if we're just going off of O'Sullivan's word, and I've been listening to Patrick for a very, very long time. I was a member of his Patreon for a very, very long time. The guy keeps it very real, okay? So unless Blackmagic put a huge check in his pocket, which I just don't think they did. So what I'm trying to say here is that Patrick has no reason to say the things he did unless he actually meant it. I really firmly believe that. And that's only because of the track record of all the years that I was on his Patreon, where he keeps it real 100, and his YouTube isn't that much cushioned, right? He tends to keep that realness no matter what the platform is. And that's something I've always respected about the guy and always appreciated about it. So get over there to the Blackmagic website, download the footage. This is actual real footage, finally, that we get to see from the camera. Kudos to Patrick and Blackmagic, because this was just such a pro-level marketing move on Blackmagic's behalf. I firmly believe that. Going with a guy like O'Sullivan was the way to do it, right? Because that is going to make the blue-collar working guys like me go, oh, okay, this is a little bit more legit. Maybe we should check this out. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about all this. Are you excited about this Pyxis 6K? A lot of people are still knocking it. Like, there's so many videos like, oh, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have this. What is the big deal? You know, the only real thing that I see about the camera that is an actual true drawback for someone like me is the fact that you only get one codec out of it. You only get that Blackmagic RAW. That to me is the only thing that I find a little bit of a bummer. And that's just because I have a lot of corporate clients that don't know what to do with something like Blackmagic RAW, right? And a lot of them don't have the time to deal with Blackmagic RAW, right? They want a straight up deliverable. So it is a bummer that Blackmagic has that whole thing, the debate, lawsuit, whatever it is going on with Apple. It's a bummer that they can't use ProRes anymore. Here's the thing about it. All these companies that claim that they're for us, they're for the little guys, they support filmmakers. But they don't understand this lawsuit is actually hurting a lot of filmmakers, guys like me, that need ProRes, right? Like I shoot on Sony. I'm shooting this right now on a Sony FX30, right? And you guys know I had the A7S III way before that. I have never once been able to take advantage of Apple ProRes RAW. Why? Because I'm a dedicated DaVinci Resolve user. We all know it is the industry standard for color grading. So to see a company like Apple or Atomos or whoever all is involved to then kind of be like, well, we don't want to put ProRes RAW or even ProRes in your program anymore, that's only hurting the filmmakers, right? That's all you're hurting. So I wish Apple and Atomos and all of those guys would just wake up, and I wish everybody could get along and stop playing these old white man debates, right? And just like let things happen good again, right? And it's because if that Pyxis 6K could also have ProRes like all of Blackmagic's previous cameras, that's the only thing I see holding that camera back, right? Because other than that, we just get some crappy H.264 proxy codec. So either that or Blackmagic Design is going to have to work extra hard to figure out their own kind of, user-friendly MP4 codec or whatever, try to figure out what Sony and those guys are doing. Why would they do that, right? They have Blackmagic RAW, so it makes sense that they would say, no, this is our RAW. It's one of the best RAWs you can get. And I understand the files are even smaller than ProRes, depending on what compression you shoot in. So I get it, right? I get it. I fully understand Blackmagic's argument from the side. But it's just a bummer for all of us filmmakers out there that kind of need like a user-friendly codec to hand off to corporate clients, commercial clients, people that, don't have time to mess with RAW. That's just the reality of it. That's the only downside of that camera that I can see so far. I don't care about internal NDs. It's a bummer that doesn't have it, but it's not going to deter me. Every camera I've ever used never had internal NDs, right? The only time I get to use a camera that has internal NDs is when I'm on a job and they have a budget to rent a camera that is pro level enough to have internal NDs, right? I'm just being real. Guys like me, I've always had my own set of NDs. People like Patrick taught me years ago that, hey man, you buy your own set of NDs, and if they're good enough, you can get them as part of your rental kit when people hire you for the job, right? So I'm not trying to make this an ad about Patrick's Patreon, but his podcast is free. You all should know about his podcast for now. That's how I first found out about him way back in 2017, right? I cannot praise Blackmagic enough for this purely just one of the smartest marketing moves I've ever seen, just from a professional standpoint, right? So let me know what you guys think about the camera. Let me know what you think about the spot that was shot, the commercial. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. And yeah, be sure to share this video around and let's get the conversation going. Bravo to the guys over there in Australia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.